The day she was born was the happiest day in her parents' lives. "She's perfect," said her mother. "Absolutely," said her father. And she was. She was absolutely perfect. "Her name must be everything she is," said her mother. "Her name must be absolutely perfect," said her father. And it was. Chrysanthemum. Her parents named her Chrysanthemum. Chrysanthemum grew and grew and grew. And when she was old enough to appreciate it, Chrysanthemum loved her name. Here you can see some pictures. Chrysanthemum going through different stages of her life. And in this last picture, she's already old enough to walk and talk, and she says, "I love my name." So she loves her name just as much as her parents do. She loved the way it sounded when her mother woke her up. She loved the way it sounded when her father called her to dinner. And she loved the way it sounded when she whispered it to herself in the bathroom mirror. Chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum. Chrysanthemum loved the way her name looked when it was written with ink on an envelope. She loved the way it looked when it was written with icing on her birthday cake. And she loved the way it looked when she wrote it herself with her fat orange crayon. Chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum. Chrysanthemum thought her name was absolutely perfect. You can see her how happy she is. And then she started school. On the first day, Chrysanthemum wore her sunniest dress and her brightest smile. She ran all the way. "Hooray," said Chrysanthemum, "school!" But when Mrs. Chud took roll call, everyone giggled upon hearing Chrysanthemum's name. Why do you think they giggled? Do you think it's nice to giggle when you hear someone else's name? Would you like it if you said your name in a room full of people you didn't know yet, and everyone else giggled? Probably not. Let me read you all the kids in the class's name. This is Mrs. Chud. We have Don, Eve, Lois, Al, Les, Kay, Max, Sue, Bill, Pat, Tom, Sam, Ken, Joe, Rita, Victoria, and Chrysanthemum. So what's the difference between Chrysanthemum's name and all the other kids' names? That's right, the other kids in the class all have kind of short names. Some kids' names are 2 letters, some are 3 and 4. This girl, Victoria, she has a little bit of a longer name, but you can see what in the picture, everybody's name fits in their box. Chrysanthemum's kind of sticks out of her little box. "It's so long," said Joe. "It scarcely fits on your name tag," said Rita, pointing. "I'm named after my grandmother," said Victoria. "You're named after a flower." So that's another reason why Victoria's making fun of Chrysanthemum. She says having a name that's named after a flower, she doesn't think that's cool, or she doesn't think that's a nice way to have a name. And here you can see Rita pointing her long white finger. Chrysanthemum wilted. She did not think her name was absolutely perfect. She thought it was absolutely dreadful. What does it mean to wilt? Chrysanthemum wilted. Kind of means she drooped. She kind of did this a little bit. She like sagged. In fact, wilted is a word that we use a lot of times for flowers. When flowers droop over, we say they wilted. So when Chrysanthemum wilted, it's kind of like, since she's named after a flower, the word kind of makes sense in both contexts. It's kind of sad also that once she meets other kids who tell her that they don't like her name, she doesn't think it's perfect anymore like she did before. She thinks it's now absolutely dreadful. So she's changed her opinion based on other people that she's met. The rest of the day was not much better. During nap time, Victoria raised her hand and informed Mrs. Chud that Chrysanthemum's name was spelled with 13 letters. "That's exactly half as many letters as there are in the entire alphabet," Victoria explained. "Thank you for sharing that with us, Victoria," said Mrs. Chud. "Now put your head down." "If I had a name like yours, I'd change it," Victoria said, as the students lined up to go home. "I wish I could," thought Chrysanthemum miserably. "Welcome home," said her mother. "Welcome home," said her father. "School is no place for me," said Chrysanthemum. "My name is too long. It scarcely fits on my name tag, And I'm named after a flower. Oh, pish, said her mother. Your name is beautiful, and precious and priceless and fascinating and winsome, said her father. He uses big words. It is everything you are, said her mother. Absolutely perfect, said her father. Chrysanthemum felt much better after her favorite dinner, macaroni and cheese with ketchup, and an evening filled with hugs and kisses and parcheesi. That night, Chrysanthemum dreamed that her name was Jane. It was an extremely pleasant dream. The next morning, Chrysanthemum wore her most comfortable jumper. She walked to school as slowly as she could. She dragged her feet in the dirt. Chrysanthemum, 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 she wrote. Why is she walking to school slowly? And what makes her drag her feet? What does it say about somebody if they are getting somewhere slowly? If you're excited about getting somewhere, you run and jump. But if you're kind of nervous or scared to go somewhere, you go slowly and you go anxiously, like Chrysanthemum. Chrysanthemum's anxious about school. Why is that? She even looks like a flower, said Victoria as Chrysanthemum entered the playground. Let's pick her, said Rita, pointing. Let's smell her, said Joe. Chrysanthemum wilted. She did not think her name was absolutely perfect. She thought it was absolutely dreadful. I guess we can see why she doesn't want to go to school. The rest of the day was not much better. During nap time, Victoria raised her hand and said, A chrysanthemum is a flower. It lives in a garden with worms and other dirty things. Thank you for sharing that with us, Victoria, said Mrs. Chudd. Now put your head down. Now I have a question for you. Did Victoria say anything about Chrysanthemum herself? Did she say anything mean to Chrysanthemum? Technically, she just stated a scientific fact, right? That flowers grow in gardens. And also, by the way, there are dirty things in gardens. So is Victoria being mean or not? The answer is that, yeah, that's a really type of bullying thing for somebody to do, to make mean remarks that everyone else can understand is talking about a certain person. That makes Victoria a bully. I just cannot believe your name, Victoria said as the students lined up to go home. Neither could I, thought Chrysanthemum miserably. Welcome home, said her mother. Welcome home, said her father. School is no place for me, said Chrysanthemum. They said I even looked like a flower. They pretended to pick me and smell me. Oh, pish, said her mother. They're just jealous, and envious and begrudging and discontented and jaundiced, said her father. Who wouldn't be jealous of a name like yours, said her mother. After all, it's absolutely perfect, said her father. Chrysanthemum felt a trifle better after her favorite dessert, chocolate cake with buttercream frosting, and another evening filled with hugs and kisses and parcheesi. Do you know what a trifle means? A trifle better? It's a little better. Because even as much as Chrysanthemum's parents love her, gotta also deal with the bullies at school. That night, Chrysanthemum dreamed that she really was a chrysanthemum. She sprouted leaves and petals. Victoria picked her and plucked the leaves and petals one by one until there was nothing left but a scrawny stem. It was the worst nightmare of Chrysanthemum's life. Chrysanthemum wore her outfit with 7 pockets the next morning. She loaded the pockets with her most prized possessions and her good luck charms. Why would she do that? Maybe she wants to feel some support and love from herself when she goes to school. Chrysanthemum took the longest route possible to school. There you go again, she doesn't want to get there. She stopped and stared at each and every flower. Chrysanthemum, 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 they seemed to say. That morning, the students were introduced to Mrs. Twinkle, the music teacher. See her on the page? She's the new character. Her voice was like something out of a dream, and as was everything else about her. The students were speechless. They thought Mrs. Twinkle was an indescribable wonder. They went out of their way to make a nice impression. They all love Mrs. Twinkle. Mrs. Twinkle led the students in scales. Then she assigned roles for the class musical. Victoria was chosen as the dainty fairy queen. Rita was chosen as the spiffy butterfly princess. Joe was chosen as the all-important pixie messenger. And Chrysanthemum was chosen as a daisy. Chrysanthemum's a daisy! Chrysanthemum's a daisy! Joe, Rita, and Victoria chanted, thinking it was wildly funny. Chrysanthemum wilted. She did not think her name was absolutely perfect. She thought it was absolutely dreadful. "What's so humorous?" asked Mrs. Twinkle. "Chrysanthemum," was the answer. "Her name is so long," said Joe. "It scarcely fits on her name tag," said Rita, pointing. "I'm named after my grandmother," said Victoria. "She's named after a flower." "My name is long," said Mrs. Twinkle. "It is?" said Joe. "My name would scarcely fit on a name tag," said Mrs. Twinkle. "It would?" said Rita, pointing. "And," said Mrs. Twinkle, "I'm named after a flower, too." "You are?" said Victoria. "Yes," said Mrs. Twinkle. "My name is Delphinium. Delphinium Twinkle. And if my baby is a girl, I'm considering Chrysanthemum as a name. I think it's absolutely perfect." Chrysanthemum could scarcely believe her ears. She blushed, she beamed, she bloomed. Chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum. So what you can kind of learn from this thing that Mrs. Twinkle has the same type of name as Chrysanthemum? What do you think Victoria and Joe and Rita kind of realize? Maybe that a person's name doesn't really have to do with who they are, and instead of basing people on an external detail about them, you should get to know their personality. Maybe somebody that you really admire, you wouldn't assume has a name like you were making fun of. Joe, Rita, and Victoria looked at Chrysanthemum longingly. "Call me Marigold," said Joe. "I'm Carnation," said Rita, pointing. "My name is Lily of the Valley," said Victoria. Chrysanthemum did not think her name was absolutely perfect. She knew it. And we'll stop there.